So, like I said in my previous episode, due to certain circumstances, my recording studio is a bit different today, so my apologies. If it sounds a bit different, I can be a bit louder on this one because, well, it's not incredibly early like when I recorded the first one. Regardless, on Joda the Unifier, a brand new, exciting 5-color commander that, I do not know for sure, but if I had to guess, this is going to be incredibly popular. Nevertheless, do not leave just yet because you've got to stay tuned for this episode because, well, there's some strange things going on right now, and I'm asking the question, what in the world is going on? Because, apparently we've got yet another Warhammer 40k or Warhammer 40,000, and thank you all you Warhammer fans in the comments below have been very nice and, being very understanding when I'm making mistakes with these things, but I believe Warhammer 40k is okay to say. But yeah, regardless, another one of the images apparently has just shown up on Wizards' actual website. And I cannot imagine this is an intentional way that they are actually spoiling these. This image just shows up and it's like, oh yeah, here's the box that, has the clear, picture of the commander on it. So of course I was able to, take that plus the art that has already been, shown off by Wizards officially and, put into a custom card. Again, thank you to mtg.design for existing. You are a fantastic website and I could not make custom cards like this without you. Now, I'm not just sure if this is a coding issue or, some intern at Wizards just accidentally, put the actual images out way too early. But yeah, I can't imagine this was intended to be spoiled. But regardless, it is, apparently. So yeah, Inquisitor Greyfax, a 3/3 human Inquisitor that has Vigilance, and it costs 1 white, blue, black. Now, notably, I think, and please correct me below in the comments when I'm wrong on this, I think this might be our first Inquisitor ever in Magic, but again, I could be wrong on that. And by that, I mean, the actual creature type Inquisitor, not by name, because there are others by name regardless. Oh, I'm thrown off already. Anyways, other creatures you control get +1 with 0 and have Vigilance, and by paying 1, we can tap it and tap target creature opponent controls and investigate, which of course means that we create a clue that we can sacrifice, for 2 to draw a card. So an Esper Clue commander that can deal with tapping, as well as, pumping our creatures and giving them Vigilance. This seems like a very interesting direction for a commander, and I'm very excited to see what other cards come out in this commander deck as well. But yeah, being able to tap down opponents' creatures has a lot of potential in a couple of different ways, and we'll talk about some of those ways specifically here in a bit. But at the very least, again, you can be pretty aggressive with this commander with your creatures because, again, it gives them Vigilance, pumps them, and again, you can utilize that tapping to potentially help them get through in certain situations. So one direction for this commander might even include, a lot of low to the ground evasive creatures, that essentially, again, get pumped, have Vigilance, a nice Anthem effect, so you can swing out quickly and easily. And again, let's say you've got a bunch of flyers and an opponent has maybe 1 flyer to block, you can just tap it down and get your creatures through, and yeah, you can be very aggressive with that kind of a strategy. But of course, another strategy, and I think the more popular strategy around this commander, is going to be focusing more heavily on clues. Again, you're still getting that value by tapping down a creature, and then also you get to investigate. And of course, it's a great repeatable way to investigate throughout the game for some additional card advantage. And of course, there's some exciting things that you can do with those clues as well. Now, before we talk about the cards that actually work well with this commander, I will mention, with all the other quick takes that I've talked about with commanders during spoiler season, in the description below, yes, right below you can scroll down right now if you'd like to, there is a linked list of cards that I'm going to be talking about in this episode, because when new commanders are spoiled, whether through, normal means or very strange, Wizards just happens to have, an image on their website means, accidentally, cards that work well with that commander, though, tend to go up in price, or can go up in price sooner rather than later, because, yeah, players get excited about a commander and then see, okay, well, how am I going to build around this commander? And they might even pick up those cards before the actual commander product is actually even released. So if you are interested in this commander, make sure you check that out. I will mention again, Disclaimer, again, Wizards has not officially said that this is an actual card, okay? So Wizards has not, claimed it to be an actual spoiler. That being said, it does, again, have a good amount of legitimacy in that apparently, again, the image popped up on Wizards' site. Now, one more thing I will mention with the Swarm Lord specifically, I did see that image on the site myself, so that one seems incredibly legitimate. I will say that with this one, I did not see the actual image on the site with my own eyes because, they had taken it down or changed it by the time that apparently had happened. But again, these images that are coming out do seem to be very legitimate. Again, just a disclaimer, not officially spoiled, okay? So if you aren't completely sure yourself, then yeah, maybe wait to pick up some of those cards though, okay? But now that said, let's jump into the cards. So first up, and one of the first cards that came to my mind when I saw this new commander is Erdwald Illuminator, which says whenever you investigate for the first time each turn, investigate an additional time. Again, if we are going in that investigate clue direction, this can provide us a ton of value throughout the game. I mean, it can basically double up our, clue synergies. Again, if we are getting, one trigger each turn essentially or something like that, basically, this can help us double up at least our commander's trigger, if we're utilizing that in an opponent's turn, or if we have other triggers on our turn. Yeah, this can provide us a lot of clues throughout the game. Again, for just a 2-mana creature, that's a lot of easy value. And of course, with those clues, yes, we can sacrifice them to draw cards, which is great, but also, we've got other ways to utilize them too that we'll talk about here in a bit. Because of course we've got other ways to make clues too in an investigate, kind of tribal deck, if you might say. Tamiyo's Journal is a great one at the beginning of your upkeep, investigate. So we just get to investigate freely on our upkeep, getting a free clue. But more importantly, we get to tap and sacrifice 3 clues with this and search our library for any card, put that card into our hand, then shuffle our library. With the amount of different ways that we can investigate, once we're set up properly, Tamiyo's Journal itself can basically just be every single turn tutor for whatever card we want, which is huge. Even just, talking about the 3 cards we've talked about so far, our commander, Erdwall Illuminator, and this, yeah, if we activate our commander on our turn, that's 3 clues on the turn. So yeah, we can easily tutor a lot. Next up, how about Eloise Nephalia Sleuth? It says, whenever another creature you control dies, investigate. So we get additional value whenever our creatures die, which is great. And of course, on top of that, we also get additional value whenever we sacrifice tokens. Well, whether that's creature tokens or, again, obviously clues, we get some additional value. We get to surveil 1. And while surveilling isn't card advantage, it is fantastic card selection. Basically, again, it's kind of like Scribe, but instead of putting the card on the bottom, we put in the graveyard. So yeah, we can just get rid of things that we don't need, or maybe we can utilize certain cards in our graveyard. This card can help us out in a lot of different ways throughout the game for a ton of value. Moving on though, there's Bygone Bishop, which says whenever you cast a creature spell, converted mana cost 3 or less, investigate. So if we are going to have a good amount of creatures in this deck that have a low converted mana cost, of course, this can just provide us a lot of additional value. And of course, filling the board with clues is definitely not a bad thing for this deck. So yeah, now let's talk about some enchantments, starting off with Trail of Evidence. It says whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, investigate. So yeah, just a nice additional value throughout the game. Again, the more and more of these effects that we have in play that just give us clues for one reason or another, the more we can fill our board with clues and the more exciting things we can do with them. So we can also run Search the Premises, which says whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, investigate. So this might even be a way to actually deter attacks, or at the very least, again, benefit from our opponents attacking us. If they just keep swinging at us, we're getting clues for every single creature that is attacking us or a planeswalker we control, which again can lead to a ton of card advantage or, again, potential other great effects. And then on the other end of things, though, there's Thorough Investigation, which says whenever you attack, investigate. Now, keep in mind, it just says whenever you attack, not, for each creature you control that's attacking or whatnot. So essentially, we're only getting 1 clue for an attack no matter how many creatures we attack with, but still, again, that's just a nice additional value for just being a little aggressive with this commander. But on top of that, we get some extra value. It says whenever you sacrifice a clue, venture into the dungeon. So yeah, we can just keep venturing into the dungeon for some additional value, and we're going to be sacrificing a ton of clues throughout the game, so there are some very powerful things that some of those dungeons can do. Definitely a great card to have in play in this deck. Moving on though, we also have some ways to take advantage of the interactions in this deck with our clues and our commanders. Let's talk about Tezzeret Betrayer Flesh to start. It says, the first activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less to activate, which, I mean, again, our clues cost 2 to sacrifice, so this is basically just like, okay, hey, every single turn, if you want to, you can sacrifice a clue for free. That is huge. I mean, in one trip around the table, say we have 4 clues to sacrifice, that is saving us 8 total mana. So yeah, that can save us a ton throughout the game. +1, draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. There's definitely some artifacts that we can run this deck. -2, target artifact becomes an artifact creature if it is in a vehicle, has base power on top of this 4/4. So we can turn a clue into something that can actually hit our opponents. And actually, we've got other ways to do that here in a bit, and even bigger ways to do that. But next up, let's talk about Ethereal Investigator. When it enters the battlefield, we investigate X times, where X the number of opponents we have. So, I mean, usually this is going to be, what, 3 clues just for this coming into play? And then, of course, on top of that, whenever we draw our second card, each turn we create a 1/1 white sphere creature token with flying. So obviously, just by sacrificing 1 clue on our turn, we meet this requirement. And then, yeah, if we have any other draw spells, or again, if we sacrifice 2 clues on an opponent's turn, we meet that requirement as well. And we can make a lot of tokens with this. And again, remember that our commander gives our creatures vigilance, which is incredible, so we can just start swinging out with our, spirits, which again have some evasion, and get a good amount of damage out there while also keeping back to block. But speaking of drawing cards, and one that can draw us a lot of cards throughout the game is Verity's Circle, which says whenever a creature in opponent controls becomes tapped, if it isn't being declared as an attacker, you may draw a card. So essentially this is just extra card advantage on our commander's activation because, yeah, we can easily tap down our opponent's creatures very cheaply throughout the game with our commander, and of course there are ways to take even more advantage of that, which we'll talk about here in a bit. Speaking of taking advantage of that though, yeah, Illusionist Bracers says whenever an ability of a equipped creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, copy that ability, may choose targets for the copy. Obviously our commander, is not generating mana or anything like that, so it's not a mana ability. So yeah, we get to copy that when we activate, and getting 2 activations out of 1 is huge. Again, tapping down 2 creatures every single time for just 1 mana and making 2 clues. Twice the value, twice the fun, at least for us. And speaking of fun, there is Clock of Omens, which is an incredible card in combination with all of our clues. It says tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, untap target artifacts. So again, our clues don't inherently tap, but now, if we have, Tezzeret in play, and then we ultimate, which I think I forgot to mention that one, but yeah, it says whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, draw a card. In combination, that's quite nice, drawing a ton of cards. Now, obviously, that is, a dream scenario where we, ultimate a Planeswalker plus have this in play, but still, definitely can happen. More importantly and more likely, we're just going to be utilizing this to untap our mana rocks a ton. I mean, if we have, again, say, Soul Ring in play, this is basically, hey, tap 2 clues for 2 mana, because we just tap our 2 clues to untap the Soul Ring, tap again. I mean, at the very least, even if we have any mana rock in play, like a Mind Stone that just taps for 1, our clues then essentially are tapping for a half mana apiece. But one card that is absolutely incredible and incredibly brutal in this deck is Junkwinder. It's got affinity for tokens, and it says, whenever a token enters the battlefield under your control, tap target non-land permanent and opponent controls. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untapped step. So yeah, normally this would cost 5 blue, so 7 mana, but with the affinity for tokens and having all of our clues in play, this is generally just going to cost us, 2 mana for a 5/6. That, of course, has an incredible trigger. Whenever we activate our commander now, and we get that clue, we also get to tap down another non-land permanent, and then, yeah, that thing doesn't untap. So, of course, the more ways that we have to make clues, the better this gets, and yeah, this again can be very brutal, tapping down our opponent's things, and again, those things do not untap during the opponent's next untap step. Moving on, of course, we've got even more ways to take advantage of our commander's activated ability by just simply untapping it with cards like Chalk and Retriever, Unbender Tine, and Vizier of Tumbling Sands. Chalk and Retriever says, when you cast a spell during your turn, untap target creature. So with this, it's basically just another reactivation of our commander. I mean, okay, when I say free, yes, our commander does cost 1 to activate, but still, you know what I mean. Every single time we cast a spell, we untap our commander, and yeah, we can just keep utilizing again and again and again. Next up, there's Unbender Time, which lets us untap our commander or any other target permanent whenever we want to. And Vizier of Tumbling Sands says tap untap other target permanent as well, or we can cycle it away to untap target permanent. So this is a flexible card that can help us out, whether it's in our hand or on the battlefield. But yeah, additional activations of our commander can be a very powerful thing. Again, tapping down our opponent's creatures can have a lot of consequences for them, and also, again, getting us more and more clues, which can also have consequences for our opponents. And speaking of which, one of those consequences is, well, we can drain our opponents for a ton with cards like Marionette Master, Disciple of Vault, and Agent of the Iron Throne. Marionette Master has Fabricate 3, which means that, well, we can usually have it come into play with 3 counters on it, or we can make 3 servos. Typically, we're going to pick the counters, though. It says whenever an artifact you control is put into a grid from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette Master's power. So whenever we sacrifice a clue, we drain an opponent for 4. And yeah, this can get out of control very quickly. In a somewhat similar but smaller way, there's Disciple of the Vault. Whenever an artifact is put in a grid from the battlefield, you may have target opponent lose 1 life, but still, that life loss adds up. Speaking of which, there's Agent of the Iron Throne, a fantastic background for this commander. Commander creatures you own have, whenever an artifact or creature you control is put in a grid from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So this counts any of our artifacts or any of our creatures, of course including our clues, and drains all of our opponents with it. Of course, though, another way to finish off our opponents is with cards like Rise and Shine, Cyberdrive Awakener, and the Antiquities War. Rise and Shine has an overload cost, so we can make it so it targets all of our non-creature artifacts, and it's going to make them all become 0/0 artifact creatures with 4 counters on them. So we can turn our clues into a clue army that can overwhelm our opponents. Speaking of which, Cyberdrive Awakening is a 4/4 flyer that says other artifact creatures you control are flying, and on top of that, whenever it enters the battlefield, until end of turn, each non-creature artifact you control becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/4. Again, keep in mind our commander, again, gives +1/+0 and vigilance, so we've got, 5/4 flying, evasive, swingy clues that have vigilance that we can just swing out with and be fine. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if those clues have vigilance or not because they're not going to be creatures after this, but still. Next up, though, there's the Antiquities War, which first 2 lower counters say, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an artifact card from among them, put in your hand, put the rest of them on your library in random order. So basically some nice additional card, advantage with some selection there too. On top of that, artifacts you control become artifact creatures with base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. So again, this can be a big swingy way to finish off our opponents, again with some 6/5 vigilant clues and other artifact creatures. Or, we can utilize our commander's ability for a different purpose with cards like Willbreaker and Dismiss into Dream. Willbreaker says, whenever a creature in opponent controls becomes the target of a spell or ability you control, gain control of that creature for as long as you control Willbreaker. So basically, now our commander's like, okay, I pay 1, I tap it, I'm going to tap that creature that you control, I gain control of it, it is now mine, and I also get a clue. Thank you very much. So yeah, demolishing your opponents with their own creatures can be a very fun thing, well, at least for you. And then next up, there's Dismiss in a Dream, which says each creature opponents control is an illusion addition to other types, and it has, when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. So now your commander is just taking out creatures left and right. Yeah, they're not going to become tapped because they're just gone because they were targeted, so they have to be sacrificed. You still get your clue, which is lovely. So yeah, these can be brutally effective ways to take over the game. But now, as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Inquisitor Greyfax. Yeah, again, I am not sure how exactly these little snafus keep happening, but apparently they do. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of players out there that are excited about this brand new Investigate Esper commander that, again, can be taken in a couple of different directions. But again, quick disclaimer, again, it has not been officially confirmed to be, a real card just yet, an official spoiler. It does seem pretty legitimate to me, and again, apparently showed up on the Wizards website, like the other, one accidentally did as well, so yeah, we will have to see, time will tell, but yeah, if you are interested in this commander, and if you think, it's legitimate enough to start, getting some cards for it, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. And of course, also make sure that you check out my other quick takes and spoilers, especially the ones coming up.
And with that, this show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.